Welcome one and all to Last Stop Penn Station podcast featuring Kerry Silken and Ian Riccoboni. They dive deep into Kerry's wealth of stories, and no subject is off limits. From the world of wrestling to his ticket agency, growing up in New Jersey, drug-fueled underground days, hustling in the French Quarter of New Orleans, and endless days and nights in New York City, every story is worth telling.
Hello, welcome everyone to another exciting edition of Last Stop Penn Station. Ian Riccoboni, Kerry Silken. Kerry, before we get started, I got to notice that we were on the iTunes charts in Austria, in France, in Australia, and New Zealand last week, on top of Ireland, the UK, and Canada in the personal journal category.
It must have been because of the CM Punk episode.
It must have been. That was, we had a lot of great stories. Thank you for sharing those.
Yeah, and we got a really good reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully the folks in, where'd you say, Australia, Ireland,
yeah.
Finland?
Yeah, Australia, New Zealand, France. Yeah, there was a good worldwide response.
Do you know that Ring of Honor, during my tenure, besides being on in the UK when they had the Fight Channel,
oh, right, yeah,
we were on in France.
Yes, I knew that because at different times in my tenure, we've been on in France also. We have a French Ring of Honor is dubbed in French. There's a great Canadian team that does it, and occasionally it's just on in France. So I wish I knew more, but that's all I know.
Well, it's good that we're on in France.
Yeah,
we're going to be on September 12th.
Sure,
in Philly.
Death Before Dishonor,
big pay-per-view.
Yeah, the tickets moving fast.
Good.
They are moving fast. And, I'm excited. Almost all the matches have been announced, even ones that I didn't know heading into these announcements. Yeah, I didn't know the team that would face Violence Unlimited was going to be LSG, John Walters, who's a man from your time, and Lee Moriarty, who's probably one of the most exciting names right now in independence.
So who are the two mysteries?
Well, it was Moriarty and Walters.
Okay.
Yeah. And LSG is he's the present, John Walters is the past, and Moriarty is the future of the group.
And LSG was just in it last. He and a bunch of people.
CB, Lee J. Lethal. Yeah. The BWO. He was a part of the BWO for a weekend.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. Have you ever been to Alaska?
Never been. Have you?
No, I got 42 down out of 50, and Alaska's one of the 890.
Well, I don't think they're going to be rushing back because Lethal told me they didn't draw good houses. But the shows went on.
Yeah.
He saw a moose, though.
Ooh. I was told by somebody in Vermont when I had the traveling pharmaceutical job that if you see, I said, I'd like to see a moose. They said, if you see one, it's too late.
Okay.
Meaning if you're driving and they're in the road, it's over. So.
Well, maybe we'll get to go to Alaska one day.
Yeah.
Speaking of Ring of Honor, how about that match with Eli Isom?
Yeah, he's something else. You see guys grow, and you're the perfect guy to talk to this about. You see guys grow right in front of you. I'm sure when you saw Jay Lethal when he was 18, you had an inkling that he had some sort of potential, but you might not have guessed that he would have been the star. And Eli Isom could be that guy.
And you were there when he had his first, I think it was his very first ROH match live. It was at the Hammerstein.
Okay, yeah. So
might have been a dark match.
It was a dark match, yeah.
But first match nevertheless.
Yeah.
For him.
Oh, Eli Isom. Yeah, I thought you meant Jay Lethal. I'm sorry. I've called, I think, every single Eli Isom match in Ring of Honor. I think there might be one or two, but yeah, I've seen this guy come in as a 18-year-old, 19-year-old, trained by CB, who's a fantastic trainer. I mean, you look at, he's trained Vita Von Star, Eli Isom. He's helped with Wheeler Yuta, who's now all over television. And Eli is a guy that you probably could have put some money on and said he's going to do something. I think he might be an A+ prospect at this point.
Well, I don't know why he hasn't been pushed a little, but he's getting his push now.
Sure is, yeah. Yeah, I think it's Eli Isom's time coming up. And
fine-looking young man.
Absolutely.
And what other notes there?
The women's tournament, we got 4 left.
Right.
Who do you got? We got Trisha Dora taking on Miranda Alizé, and we got Roxy taking on Angelina Love.
I like Roxy.
Yeah, she's cool. She's got a cool vibe. So does Trisha Dora, though. And Miranda Alizé looks like she could whoop anybody. And you can't
whoop me, that's for sure.
Yeah, and you can't count out Angelina. She's got the veteran savvy of the four.
So yeah, it's going to be a great show. It's coming right around the bend.
Yeah, it's only 2 weeks away at this point.
This Last Stop Penn Station, this is our 70th episode.
Wow,
70 episodes.
No wonder we did the big one on 69 last episode.
Well, this might be a bigger one.
Oh, really?
But before we get to that, Ian and I are both. Ian's more of a regular eBay browser lurker, buyer. I go on spurts.
Yeah.
But why don't you since we have such a big wrestling fan base, tell our fans what if they didn't see it on social media, Ian got a really cool item.
Not only did I get a cool item, I think I got the bargain of the century, because when I held it in my hands, it was even cooler than I thought. It's a typewritten TV run sheet from a 1949 broadcast from Brooklyn, New York. And the headline match is Gorgeous George versus Baron Michelle Leone. And those two were like the Sting and Flair. They were always kind of paired together. Leone had some big matchups against Thez. Gorgeous George had big matchups wherever he went. He had some famous hair matches later in his career, but they always seemed to gravitate back to each other. And they were, Leone was the big star from Los Angeles. George was the big star from the East Coast. And so it was always cool when they met. And that was a match that they took to Chicago and Los Angeles and New York City and Philly and DC. And so what I got was this run sheet, this typewritten, it's from a typewriter, and it's got 8 signatures on it. And Gorgeous George, like John Hancock, is the biggest and boldest at the bottom. And the signature is beautiful. You can tell the ink that they use. They sure put a lot more thought into pens in 1949 because this ink, sometimes you get a baseball signed, then you have it on the mantle and you can tell it's fading already because the pen wasn't great. I don't think this thing will ever fade if I don't put it in direct sunlight because it's just a beautiful signature, great pressure on the signature, great pen was used. But it's also signed by Leone. It's signed by Jim Goon Henry, who signed it as the Green Hornet, who's wrestling as. It's signed by Chief, I think it's Chief Littleheart out of Colorado. A couple of signatures. The Golden Superman's on there. Did
you look at eBay to see if there's any other Gorgeous George autographs available? There might not be any.
There's a handful. So he was one of the few guys that had like publicity photos of his time because he was that big of a star. Not many wrestlers had the 8x10s or 5x7s yet. There's a couple, and those will go for $400, $500. And the signature's not as nice because they're writing on a glossy thing. His signature sometimes obscures the photo, so it's not as cool. But this I got for $650. And what I learned...
Sarah had a heart attack.
Got her permission. I did a trick. If you're on eBay, here's the trick. If you like something and it's got to buy it now, click the heart button. And if you're willing to kind of see how it plays out, click the heart button.
They had a heart button.
There's a heart button, and it'll add it to your favorites. And every once in a while, a seller will shoot out, hey, anybody that has this favorited 20% off if you buy it right now.
Okay.
So it was $999.99, and it was like 35% off. And so I was almost going to buy it at $999.99. But when that 35% off notice came, I said, Sarah, I'm buying it. And it's incredible. It aired. It's one of the first big televised matches in New York.
And she said, but we need milk.
How are the kids going to eat? Thankfully, Ring of Honor compensates me very fairly, as does my regular job during the week. But I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen a run sheet from TV. I did more research. I went on SoCalUncensored.com. They have a big history of Baron Leone. Turns out this was a huge television match in 1949 on WPIX Channel 11.
I was watching something recently. The hell was it? But they were meant something the point is that in 1948, like 2% of the households had TVs.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like 52-ish.
Yeah.
There was like 30 when Uncle Gunny was
selling the TVs.
TV for a week. But so 49, it couldn't have been, I'm not saying it wasn't popular.
Sure.
But popular to a small amount of people that had TVs. We all stood outside the old store window.
Yeah.
Went to the tavern or wherever.
Yeah, this was, as far as I can tell, and I'm still doing more research, this was a huge match. And so not only am I firmly confident it's authentic because it's been authenticated by PSA, it just comparing it to different other things, the signatures for Gorgeous George and Leone look authentic. But this is just a really, really cool piece. I'm interested in the TV ratings. I'm going to see if I can go through the newspapers.com and see if they were printed anywhere, because this would have been a huge match. And to your point, Carrie, I mean, there's that quote that came out in 1947, which was, the more televisions were sold by Milton Berle and Gorgeous George than anybody else. So, this is definitely part of wrestling history. And I bought it kind of on a whim. I didn't know that this was, a huge televised match on one of the original superstations.
Well, in that special that we briefly talked about last week, the Muhammad Ali Dick Cavett special, because he was on the Dick Cavett show many times.
Right.
There's a good clip of about a good 45 to 60 seconds of him telling Dick Cavett how, Dick Cavett's like, how did you get that? You got that gift of gab. And he talks about seeing Gorgeous George.
Right.
And Gorgeous George talked him into the match.
Yeah.
And I went there and I said, wow, there's 15,000 other people there, and I'm one of them because they paid, so he said I could do that.
Yeah.
So Ali credited Gorgeous George with his promos.
Yeah. And so many people credit Ali, which is funny because superstar Billy Graham always credits Ali, and then Hogan credits Billy Graham. So it's funny that it all comes back to Gorgeous George.
Well, speaking of Ali, I was going to mention, I left this off my list, but I saw a movie. No, I didn't watch it with AJ. I watched it by myself. I hadn't seen this movie, I don't know, 20 years.
Coneheads.
No. Requiem for a Heavyweight.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
1960. Or 60 or 62. And it was on the Turner Classic Movies.
Okay.
So I saw that I just saw it on the guide, so I recorded it. So when they show those movies, they give you a little information about it.
Right.
So Requiem for a Heavyweight is a story of a boxer who's finished and his only opportunity is to go into wrestling.
It's based on the Italian guy. The guy with
Primo Canaro.
Primo Canaro, yep.
And Rod Sterling from The Twilight Zone did a TV version of this in 56. I don't think there's if there's any remaining footage, it's not around. But anyway, it was enough of a success that there was money put behind it. So Rod Sterling produced this film, and his manager, it's Anthony Quinn playing the boxer, famous old school actor, and the great Jackie Gleason playing his manager, and the great Mickey Rooney playing the trainer.
Wow. Okay.
Like the Burgess Meredith.
Yeah.
But in the check this out.
Yeah.
In the match, which is actually his last boxing match, his opponent in the match is Cassius Clay.
No way.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And so before the movie started, the guy talking about the film, Rod Sterling, Twilight Zone, Jackie Gleason was a huge star. The great Mickey Rooney and Anthony Quinn was Academy Award guy.
Yeah. And
he goes, and keep your eye out because in the first boxing scene, you're going to see a very recognizable face. And it was Ali. So then on top of that, and I think we did mention this last week, or maybe not, but Skylo Low.
No way.
Haystacks Calhoun.
Oh, wow.
Skylo Low.
Yeah.
Dr. Jerry Graham.
Ooh.
Some other little people, because there's a four midget match going on.
Yeah.
And so it's really, really good. It's sad.
Yeah.
This guy's, he doesn't want to do it.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to do it.
Sounds like Primo. Yeah.
And check it out, because that last scene is him coming out to the ring via in an Indian getup.
Interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
It's really good. So Requiem for a Heavyweight.
Okay.
Well worth the watch.
Awesome.
So, and one last cinematic note with the we often touched on these the fair. My stories of the freaks, and we have the great Allentown Fair.
Coming up. Yeah.
So a great 2-part documentary on the history of the circus.
Interesting.
Was that Ken Burns, or it was a PBS. Nevertheless, it came out like 3-4 years ago. Yeah. And man, P.T. Barnum and Bailey was another troupe. Yeah. And just the stuff they did, and once good and bad, and once the trains were built in like the 1870s, they showed the routes that the circus would take. Like before the train, they would just like
caravan
walk to the next town. And it was really interesting. Interesting.
I saw a great YouTube video. It's by a page called Yesterworld. And they usually talk about Disney World, but they talked about Coney Island and the formation, and very similar themes about the formation of Coney Island, the attractions, how they're borrowing from the circuses, but they also were trying to top the circuses, the City of Light kind of thing, where they wanted to make the biggest light display and this and that. And it was, some of the animal things kind of, I almost
they weren't cool.
Yeah.
It's just the way it was. And the, talk about the human oddities, the sideshows. And, so you had the human oddities with tent, and then you had the menagerie. Oh, okay. And then you had the circus, and eventually there was a 2-ring circus, and then a 3-ring circus. And it's just really, really interesting, really good. And now there's no more circus. Yeah. Not Ringling brother. Oh, Ringling. That's the other
Ringling,
one.
yeah.
John Ringling. There were 5. Was that 5? Were the Ringling the Ringling brothers. There were 5 brothers.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like the Duseks.
Yes, exactly.
It's like Ernie, Emil, Joe.
Eventually, they sort of all combined. But very good.
I'll have to check that out. Yeah.
Check out the circus.
Yeah, it's such a shame. That's a huge part of. We talk a lot about Madison Square Garden, how important that is. It's a huge history of Madison Square Garden.
That was the opening of every year. The opening shows was at the Garden, and when it had a dip in popularity at some point, like the 1830s, they told the Ringling Brothers or whomever, P.T. Barnum was like 1830 to like 1890, and then so on and so forth. But the circus, they would usually book like 2 weeks, but it interfered with either a basketball tournament or or the fights, and they're like, no, you can't. So very good. Check it out.
Awesome.
Hopefully, they'll have some good attractions in Allentown.
Yeah, we're counting on it. It's back, baby. It's back this year, and hopefully the attractions we all know and love. I saw you post a picture of the 1,100-pound pig. I hope they make it this year.
And still growing.
Love the caption. Well, growing is the request for the topic we have for today. Because Carrie, we've hinted about it. I know last week we promised something different. We will get to that. But recent current events have brought this man's name back into the limelight, Nature Boy Ric Flair, and 17 times the world champion, and if not more, depending on how you count Jack Veneno and that sort of thing, and the Fujinami win and switch and all that, upwards of 23 or 25. But He's been in Ring of Honor, and there's been a lot of questions. I recently submitted a anonymous tip to Colt Cabana's anonymous hotline, which he encourages you to call in. It's called Wrestling Anonymous. And I told him about the story about how he came to a local gym, just tried to walk in, and my friend's mom said, "Excuse me, do you have a membership?" And stopped him, and he tried to say, "I'm Ric Flair. Does Ric Flair have a membership?" And but yeah, he's very beloved in wrestling, and I know that we've tiptoed around this because of his belovedness. But right. you're ready to tell the story.
Well, the story is the story, and before I get going, this is one of prior to what you're going to hear, and some people might not like this story. Well, it's just what happened.
The truth.
Anybody who was involved in Ring of Honor in 2009 can verify every word of this. And I'll get to the story, but it was sort of sad because this was one of my, I don't know if you use the word heroes, but someone who, you had to look up to as a pro wrestling fan, one of the all-time greats, no doubt about it. And I had dealt prior to this with Dusty Rhodes and, Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express.
Ricky Steamboat. Mick
Foley and Bill Watts.
Bruno.
Yeah. And Harley Race. And the list goes on and on. J.J. Dillon. So many people, and really had no problems. Everybody was a man of their word except Kamala.
We might have to take a sidetrack here. Can you fill me in on what happened with Kamala real quick before we get to Ric Flair?
Well, our dear friend Bushwhacker Luke, there's the man no one says anything bad about.
No, he's the best.
Right.
Yeah.
Just like recently with Bobby Eaton passing away, there's no one that said anything bad.
Right.
Well, Luke Williams has not passed away, and no one says anything bad about him, and he's alive. But we were doing, where were we? Phoenix.
The WrestleMania
2008?
2008.
Maybe it was Houston the year before.
Okay.
Right, one of those two.
Yeah.
Regardless, we had...
Oh, he did the thing with Bobby Dempsey.
Right.
With the belly. Yeah.
And Necro Butcher was around.
Yeah.
So Luke was going to be at the shows and do autographs and do a tag match. Adam Pearce was booking. And Luke, I said, Luke, who do we get? Greg Valentine's always around. And, what about this one? He goes, oh, I know someone who'd be good, who doesn't come around that much. I'm like, who? He goes, Jim. I go, who's Jim? He goes, Jim Harris, Kamala. So I call Kamala, and he'd been booked for something in Chicago, and it was like, the point was it had to change his plane ticket around. So we had that expense. It wasn't just out of the gate. And so Luke and Kamala are doing the autographs at this show, night one. Luke was there both nights. Kamala was only there one night. And they both had really big lines. We had a good crowd. We had 1,200, 1,500 people.
That was one of the biggest gates until recently, yeah.
And they both had really good lines. And we had a deal. I think the deal was we split, we paid their expenses. We'll split the autographs.
Which is how it
on the
works.
honor system, which was a mistake. Which we'll get to with Ric Flair, too.
Okay.
The honor system is a mistake with some people.
Now I know why we have tickets when we have your name. Okay, thank you. All
so
right.
when Luke's finished,
he
Kamala had more people than Luke. So Luke's done, and he counts the money, and he has $1,200.
Wow.
Which is good.
Yeah.
It's like 120 people times 10 or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. And Kamala tells me I only got $400. And Sid comes over and couldn't shake him down.
For those that might be new listeners, Sid was a part of the Ring of Honor management, not Psycho Sid.
Right.
So, yeah.
And it was, he just fleeced us, and he just refused, no, I didn't have that many people. Okay, whatever. Yeah. That was that. And then he did that little spot with Bobby Dempsey.
Yeah.
So that's the Kamala story.
All right. Well, that was worth the money. We still play that. It's fun.
Right. Oh, great.
So you've had generally good experiences.
Generally good experiences with everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Except for Kamala.
I'm trying to think if anyone else gave us a hard time.
I would think not, because most of the guys you had always did some sort of return. Mick Foley came in more than once. Steamboat came in more than once. Bruno came in more than once. Like Jim Cornette was in quite. He was a regular part of the team at one point. But yeah, I would think that there was solid communication and relationships with just about any of
Bret Hart too.
Yeah,
no problems.
Yeah.
Then we get to Ric Flair.
Yeah, so this is 2009.
Correct.
And you're getting ready.
We're doing HDNet. We started HDNet in February of 2009.
Yep. And so this is after Ric Flair has retired in 2008.
But he was doing something with WrestleMania that year.
Right. He was
something.
I think he was inducted to the Hall of Fame
So he was back. He was back on the headlines of the general wrestling public. Mm-hmm. So Mike from High Spots.
Okay, good guy.
He is a good guy.
Yeah.
And he's a great guy.
Yeah.
Except he didn't give me, and he would, if he was here, if we had him on, he'd probably tell you, he didn't give me complete disclosure. He sort of arranged, he told me that Flair was available.
Okay.
And, now you got HDNet and he's leaving WWE and he certainly needs the money. And I spoke to the guys at HDNet. There's two ways to use them. We could bring them in for autograph appearances, for New York, for Chicago, for Toronto, for Detroit, wherever. And we could also, there was the possibility, this we went through it with the help of HDNet, to use him at the tapings.
Okay.
As my role, the ambassador.
Yeah.
Right? So HDNet was going to chip in. And I know it wasn't the whole thing was bad because it wasn't a popular idea with the wrestlers.
No, who? If you can name anybody, do you remember? I know.
Everybody didn't like it because they knew that he was getting paid
way more than everybody else. Right. I saw the lawsuit numbers.
Right.
Yeah.
But yet they were all over him.
I bet. Because it's Ric Flair. If Hulk Hogan, there's the famous, or maybe, you remember when AJ hurt his back at Final Battle and the word was going, Jay Lethal, said, hey, I can get so-and-so. And it's the biggest name in wrestling. We can, and, I'm sure if he came in, everybody, get a picture with him, get a picture with it. But, and you know who I'm talking about. I won't say it, but yeah, I'm sure it was the same thing with Ric Flair where, hey, it's Ric Flair. I'm going to, complain I'm not getting paid as much as he is, but then I'll see him in the hall, stop and get a picture with him.
Well, I forget the exact order of the events, but my mistake was advancing him the money he did an autograph appearance with us in St. Louis. Everything went well. Mike G was his personal driver, which is a joke in itself because one of Mike G's nicknames, besides Midas, is Magellan. Because he doesn't. It's like you're in a restaurant and he gets up to go to the bathroom. If the bathroom's to the right, he walks to the left every time. So he was going to get Flair from the airport to the building.
Okay.
So we paid him. I paid him for 6 appearances, which was a fool's move.
Gotcha.
And then we had the HDNet thing. So he comes to the first taping in Philly when we have him.
Yeah.
And everything was fine. And he did his little promo and put over the company. And he didn't sit in the dressing room with everyone else. He found some cubby hole in the 2300 ECW arena.
Yeah.
And but it went well enough. Well,
can I go back just a little bit? How did you negotiate with the High Spots guys? Were they the intermediaries? How do you call them? Do you talk?
He put me in touch with Flair directly.
Okay. Rumor at the time.
He was charming on the phone, of course.
Sure. And, a lot of the folks in Ring of Honor have great stories about Ric Flair, but I'm sure they haven't done business with Ric Flair. In terms of negotiating, what was that process like? Did he cut the number that you ended up giving him? Did you come in lower? Was there any kind of negotiation, or was it?
We paid him $10,000 an appearance for the autograph signing.
Okay.
And I don't remember what his fee was for the HDNet thing, but it was a split with the HDNet people.
Sure, who are now Access.
Right, which also gave me, be able to tell these guys in the back, that, hey,
there's somebody kicking in.
Right.
Yeah. In terms of the rumors at the time, I remember being on the internet, there was a rumor that Reed Flair wanted a shot.
He did.
And was there any plans to use Reed?
There was.
Okay.
So at the first taping, he really liked it. Mm-hmm. And he said to me that about his son coming in.
Yeah.
And I might even put the boots back on.
Oh, wow.
So we were like,
wow.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, a couple of weeks went by, and it was time for the next HDNet tapings in Philly. And a frantic Adam Pearce comes running up to me. This is before the show.
Yeah.
And waves me and Sid. And we go to the back, and there's Flair.
Mm-hmm.
And so what had happened was Vince McMahon saw him, or was told, he's on Ring of Honor HDNet tapings.
Mm-hmm.
And even though he was out of contract, it came down to this. And Flair almost said it like this: if you work with these guys anymore, you can never come back here.
Oh, wow.
So who knows how much money he might have owed Vince McMahon.
Okay. Gotcha. Because there's the stories of Vince helping financially.
Right.
And Ric Flair's even said that. So this is not new information.
No. And so there's Flair in the back, and he breaks the news to us that he can't be doing these tapings. I'm sorry, but I'll come out tonight. I don't want it filmed. I can't have it filmed. And I'm like, Rick, can you do it? I didn't know what to say. And no one knew what to say.
Yeah.
And I was trying to think quick. And I said, can we do put us over with WWE? How they did the ECW thing?
Yeah.
Something.
Right.
And he says to me, Carrie, you don't know how this man thinks. So he shut it down, basically.
But that's interesting because at least he's being upfront at this point. It feels like he's being upfront.
Right.
Yeah.
It felt like he was being upfront. So he did his little appearance, non-TV. But then we had another, I think it was 5 more autograph.
Yeah.
However it came out, there were 5 more autograph appearances, or maybe it was 7. But there was one coming up. So now we're talking about after he retires from HDNet.
Right.
He's got to come back to fulfill these 7 autograph tapings.
Yeah.
So the first one was in Manassas, Virginia.
Okay.
And the following evening was in New York City.
Okay.
At the Hammerstein.
Cool.
And I called Mike G into action once again. And he picked Flair up at, and if the Last Stop Penn Station book ever gets published.
Yeah, which it will.
This is in there. So Mike picks Flair up at either the airport. What's the airport?
Dulles?
Either Dulles or the one.
Reagan?
No. The one right in Baltimore.
Thurgood Marshall.
The one near where we stay.
Yeah, BWI.
Right.
Yeah.
So he picks Flair up, and I'm at the building, or I got to the building like 2:00, and Mike's calling Sid, and he says, "This guy's out of control. He doesn't want to come." What do you mean he doesn't want to come? He's
here.
There. So Flair was giving Mike a hard time. I'm not fucking going. And
what was he going to do? He was there. He was already there.
It was insane. And Flair and Mike's like, "But Rick, there's 1,000 people waiting for you, and they got sold out in New York City."
Yeah.
So he soothed them. Yeah. He got to the building.
Cool.
And when he got to the building, although I knew about this, he was fine. Mm-hmm. And what happened was, during the time of the HD Net tapings, where he resigned, and during the time of this first autograph appearance, his son Reed had gotten arrested. For like the second or third time with narcotics possession.
Yeah.
And before the show, there was a little snack bar, lounge, and I was sitting there with him.
Yeah.
I knew that he freaked out on my cousin, and I knew he quit HD Net.
Yeah.
But I mean, I knew that I have another 6 of these to do with them.
Right.
So I'm talking to him.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, Rick, I go, you're a grown man. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I said, but I've been clean like 9 years.
Yeah.
And, or maybe 10 or 12 years at that point. But I said, if your son's trying to, walk on the right side of the road, you can't be like partying around him. And he listened to me and he nodded his head.
Yeah.
And, we went on to, we got through that show. And Mike was supposed to give him a ride to the hotel and drive him to New York. And Flair tells Mike G, "I'll get there myself. Just give me a ride to the hotel.
Yeah.
I'll get there myself." Oh, I know. Excuse me. I'm telling the story wrong. He was, after the hotel, he had a flight to LaGuardia, and Mike was going to pick him up at LaGuardia. And Flair's like, I'll take a cab. It's all right, Mike. I got this.
Yeah.
So the Manassas went okay. There was a lot of people who came to see him.
Yeah, it's Flair country.
And the next night was Manhattan. And we had advertised that Flair was going to be special guest referee. The main event included Aries.
Okay. I can look it up.
I forget who else, but this is the time when Jerry Lynn was. I was very close with Jerry Lynn and Tyler Black at the time.
Right.
And those are like my hanging out buddies. And so he shows up in New York. If you're looking it up, I think it's May or June of 2009.
Yeah, I'll get it.
He shows up in New York, and he does the autograph part before the show. Downstairs, that room at the Hammerstein.
Yeah.
Ton of people.
Absolutely. I mean, we had the Hardys,
right.
It's just
and it was good, and he was in a good mood, and everything was fine. And I was like, all right, good. We got 2 of these down. Now we got to get through Chicago, Detroit, Toronto, Boston, right?
Yeah.
Well, did you find that?
I did. It was Austin Aries defeating Jerry Lynn and Tyler Black to win the world title. Nigel was ringside, replacing Ric Flair.
Okay.
Yeah. And Ric Flair looks like he came out and said something.
Well, I'm going to get to that.
Okay.
So we do he does the autograph thing. The first half of the show goes on. Now, behind that curtain, right? And its second half is ready to start.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Flair comes up to me and he's like, "What are you doing? You guys are showing this on television." I go, "No, we're not." He goes, "Bullshit, you're not. Look, there's fucking cameras everywhere." I go, "Rick, These are for DVDs. He goes, I told you I can't be on TV. He goes, I'm going to walk out of here. Fuck you, and fuck your company.
Whoa.
And I'm like, and then Adam Pearce comes running over.
Yeah.
And he sees me and Flair like nose to nose. And Pearce is like, what's the matter?
Yeah.
And he's yelling at Adam.
Yeah.
Same thing. And all the guys, Aries, Nigel, Brian, Jerry, Tyler,
Cabana.
Anyone who was not cordoned off was witnessing this. So what it came down to was Pierce is like, you can't leave. You're the special guest referee. He goes, I'm the special guest, nothing. He goes, and he's pointing at me and pointing out, he goes, I'm going to go out there right now. You put me out now, and I'm going to put over your company and put over you. And you better make sure that my room at the Marriott in Newark is there, because I'm out of here right after that.
Huh.
So I'm like, oh my God, they're going to set the place on fire.
Yeah.
And if Flair doesn't do the, and he wasn't going to be guest referee in the ring.
It's a special enforcer.
Right,
yeah,
outside the ring.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sweating bullets. I'm shitting my pants. And I'm looking at Adam. So we're looking at each other. So he goes out to open the second half, and he says all kinds of nice things about Ring of Honor, and he mentions me, and I'm just sitting back there going, oh my God. And when he was done, he walks past us and goes out the back door to 35th Street as if he knew the building.
Yeah.
And we didn't watch, must have just went to 8th Avenue, got a cab.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what are we going to do? And this is the greatest thing Austin Aries ever did in the history of my history with him. He had some good matches too.
He did.
He's like, so what they did was when that final match came on, the Flair music. What's that song?
Also, Rucha Spar. Yeah. The 2001 Space Odyssey. Yeah.
It plays, and Aries took a cape or something, some kind of towel, anything.
Yeah.
And the lights were low, and he walked out on the platform and did the Flair strut and turned around, and it was him. And guess what happened?
They booed him. But nobody cared that Ric Flair was not there. Oh.
Nobody cared.
Yeah. Because they got to see him at least.
They got to see him, and there wasn't one person that said, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Maybe on the internet they did, who knows. But I was so beat up and so deflated that myself and Jerry Lynn and Tyler Black, Seth Rollins, we creeped out that the back door at the end of the night and went to get some food. Yeah. And they're like, God, don't worry about it, Carrie. But they all saw it. Yeah. Everybody saw it. And he never returned to fulfill his other dates. Yeah. But there's a very sad kicker to this.
Oh.
When I was talking to him about his son, his son died within a year.
Yeah.
Maybe less.
Yeah, it was pretty shortly thereafter.
Yeah. So, and he never fulfilled the other obligations. We had the guy that did our legal stuff was in New Jersey. And he suggested a lawyer in Charlotte, because that's where Flair lived at the time. And I called this guy up.
Oh no!
He goes, Mr. Silken, I don't want to take any money from you, and if I were you, I wouldn't do this, because it's going to cost you $20,000 to try to get $40,000 that you're never going to get, and you're going to be 100th online.
Wow.
So he was aware of other civil cases that Flair had at the time. Wow. He was paying alimony. I don't know if what's true and what's not, but the word was he was paying double alimony of like $20,000 a month.
Oh no!
And his lifestyle, was that was like legit jet flying, limousine riding. Yeah. And we have a mutual friend.
Okay, Gary Juster. Yeah. No, I talked to Gary.
He doesn't like talking about it.
He doesn't. And I didn't, when Ric Flair was announced for the 73rd anniversary, I talked to Gary in Philly. I said, do you think he's going to show up? And he said, who? I said, Ric Flair. And I had forgotten that Gary and Rick were rather close. And he said, of course he's going to show up. what do you mean? I said, well, he didn't show up for Gary. And he goes, oh, that was the past. He's on the right track now. And he says Wendy, his current partner, current wife, who was, I believe, Fifi on WCW. She's got him kind of focused and in the right frame of mind.
Well, I don't know if it was Gary, but somebody arranged a birthday party in Atlanta.
Oh, okay.
And Flair rented out a restaurant.
Wow.
That someone knew the guy.
Yeah.
And that guy never got paid either.
Oh, geez.
It's like a $12,000 tab.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
I don't think that was Gary. Gary's good for it, but that's a lot of money.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
Yeah. So I know people are listening who would be. If anyone knows pro wrestling and has been around, they know that Ric Flair, as great as he's been as a performer, as much as he's meant to pro wrestling, wasn't the greatest with money. And at least with me, he wasn't a man of his word.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Oh, yeah.
There's the long persistent rumor that WWE paid, settled his debt. Is that accurate or not accurate?
I really don't know what's accurate and what's not accurate. When he left WWE recently, I'm like, why is he going to do that?
Yeah.
Because certain people have said that Vince McMahon paid his taxes. Like, we're not talking about $2,000, like a $1 million tax.
Right. That would be at least $300,000 probably. Right. Yeah.
A few times. And
right.
So Flair coming back, working WWE, making an appearance, this and that. Mm-hmm. You may take a little off the bill.
Yeah.
But when he left recently, I was surprised.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, I guess what I mean, the rumor was that in the past they've settled some of his other obligations. Did you receive any money from them?
No. And I saw him in 2019, on the greatest day of our lives at Madison Square Garden show. He was at the High Spots convention, the WrestleCon.
Yeah.
And I saw a bunch of people, and he had a line of people, and I didn't say hello. I just walked by.
Do you have any fear telling this story? Because you're kind of the little man here,
no.
And he's Ric Flair, so there might be some
maybe
fear.
he'll hear this and pay.
Yeah. I mean, Colt Cabana has said it on Ring of Honor broadcasts. He's not been afraid to say it on his podcast. I'm kind of shocked as well that this hasn't been louder and clearer to folks. But
I know he owed High Spots, got his belt
right
at one point.
Yeah.
And Mike had problems, I don't know if it ever got settled.
Yeah. After that, you would go on you would start the exploration of selling to Sinclair. From what you've said, around that time. A little later, it ends up being sold in April of 2011 officially. So for you, was that just another sign that, maybe I should start winding this thing down?
It was a real kick in the balls.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Did you lose kind of trust or faith in what was happening? I mean, because you go on to bring in more.
We followed him with Bret Hart.
Okay.
Who was a pleasure.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah.
And he drew well.
Yeah.
And he's no problem. I told the story about driving him from Boston to New York with the Bucks in the back?
No, you've never told it on the air.
Yeah, we did a show in Boston, and the next day was in New York, and I wanted to get out of Boston and drive, and so did Bret Hart. I didn't know him, and I was like, well, and I had Adam Pearce put the Bucks on first, and Bret Hart was like, why are these kids coming with us? I go, well, they're my buddies. It's all right.
Yeah.
So it turned out that the 4-hour ride went by like in a minute because he was really easy to talk to. And I knew a lot about the Calgary history.
Yeah.
And I was able to bring up these names.
Sure.
That were real oddballs. And he liked that. And he also there were two people he did not like, and he was very verbal about it. And one of them was Ric Flair, and the other one was Shawn Michaels.
Okay, which I think, credit to him, I think he's buried the hatchet with both since that he very publicly in 2010 did so with Shawn Michaels, and then more recently with Ric Flair. So it's pretty cool. If you were able to see Ric Flair, would you? You know, I know that's a lot of money. So we're talking about 40,000.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying you're rich, Kerry, but you got a lot. You're you're fortunate compared to others, but that's still got a sting.
Yeah, it stung, and it was just to get a screwing like that.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we didn't. We probably had advertised them for the future events, but it wasn't like you could buy a ticket for an autograph in advance.
Gotcha.
So I think we replaced him with Bret Hart quickly.
Yeah, that's
everybody liked it.
Yeah.
So that's my Ric Flair story, boys and girls.
Wow. Finally got to hear the Ric Flair story. It seemed like you took out along at least.
We got along.
Yeah. There's a lot of similarities with you guys. You're kind of a flashy guy when you go out. You go to good restaurants. You like a good meal. You like nice cars.
Yeah, I mean,
you like flying first class. I've seen how you roll, Kerry. I know, but I get the free upgrade. You fork over the dough for it. You know.
No, he was easy to talk to. But
let's say some good thing. What was the best thing about having Ric Flair around Ring of Honor?
Well, it was just really cool.
Yeah.
The first time he came, somehow I got there was an autograph signing in St. Louis that preceded the HD net.
Okay.
And that was the first, like I mentioned it earlier. So he was fresh, and Mike G got him to the building, and these guys were all over.
Yeah.
Sami Zayn and Jericho, they were like all over him. And Nigel and Kevin Steen, because we had a monitor in the back.
Okay.
And he was really enjoying it. And the main event was Nigel and somebody, and I was at the table with Flair.
I'll look it up quick while we're...
And I lean over to him. It was a really good match. Anything Nigel's in is going to be a really good match.
Yeah.
This is in Collinsville. Gotcha. And I said, what do you think? He goes, oh, this is great. You know, these guys can work. Yeah. So, yeah, but that was like our high water mark.
So for this one, I actually found Dave Prazak's message board post about this. It was March 13th, 2009.
Right.
And Dave Prazak interviewed Ric Flair to start. Well,
I think Sweeney did.
Well, there was the Shred Off,
right?
Which was, again, that might be worth $40,000, Kerry. In hindsight, I mean, him and Larry Sweeney having the Shred Off. It was Brent Albright versus Nigel for the title.
A good match.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing this show. Bison Smith versus Bryan Danielson. And this is the fun era of Ring of Honor because you got these guys who kind of came in, came out. You know, Kenny King and Rhett Titus against the Chris.
Against who?
The Chris.
Jake and right.
Yeah. Sweet and Sour Incorporated versus Cena and Generico. So it was, Chris Hero, Davey Richards, and Eddie Edwards versus Steen, Generico, and Dempsey. So yeah, this is. Listen to this opener. This was, well, it wasn't the opener. it's pretty close to the opener. Austin Aries, Claudio, Kenny Omega, and Silas Young.
Wow.
In a 4-corner survival. It's amazing.
Yeah, we've had some good stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he really enjoyed that night. He enjoyed it.
Sounds like a heck of a card.
He was engaged.
Yeah.
And then it went. Then it went down. But what are you going to do?
He goes to TNA shortly thereafter.
Right.
Did you just say what the hell?
Yeah. He and Hulk Hogan are these 60-year-old guys are bleeding all over each other.
Which they might have had the best match of 2011. To be fair, I mean they're 2 old pros; they know how to do it. But yeah, that was. Did you contact them and say, "Hey, can we get a garnish?"
No, slap a garnish.
Slap a garnish. Man, that's got to be strange too, because you're using the Bucks who are doing TNA and Ring of Honor, and then they kind of moved to Ring of Honor, and you're using Kenny King, who's dabbling a little bit, and then he, so you're using guys that are going both places. I mean, did the relationship work out okay with TNA and Ring of Honor at the time? It seemed like okay.
No, it was never any good with them.
Yeah.
One time we got Samoa Joe for a match against Tyler Black. This is like 2008. Everything was top dollar. We had Abyss a few times.
Right.
My friend from Puerto Rico.
Yeah, great guy. Yeah.
And but yeah, they were always hard to deal with.
Yeah.
We were easy.
Yeah.
I was a pushover. That's not built for the wrestling business.
Well, thank you for sharing the story. I know folks were looking forward to it. And I guess if you're listening, Ric Flair, I think you still owe Gary some money. Maybe you can send that. I give you his phone number, his address if you hear this.
Well, God bless you, Rick. We wish we wish you the best. But by the way, it's $40,000 still owed.
Geez, that's something. Man, I hope I didn't give away too much earlier when we were talking about Jay Lethal and that's a fun story. Maybe I'll tell that one day. But
all right, maybe we'll get you to tell that next week.
Oh, I don't know if I'm allowed to. They might slap a garnish on me. They might censor me. But so we were talking about the relationship with TNA. I know we promised people that. I know we were going to talk about at one point when TNA pulled the talent.
So we'll talk about that next week with the.
Because we were promising that.
2004.
We were promising Ric Flair, the Sex Tour, the TNA. We got Ric Flair out of the way. And we'll hit 2004 next time.
Okay.
That's a very pivotal year in Ring of Honor.
Well, make sure you subscribe to Last Stop Penn Station. Give us a rating.
Buy a shirt at ProWrestlingTees.com.
Yes.
Yeah, if you like the camel, he's there. And we want to thank everybody globally for listening, which was quite fun to see all those different countries pop up. Yeah, and so whether you're listening in the United States or around the world, we appreciate you. We hope you join us next week. We're going to take a dive into 2004 and how essentially CM Punk and Samoa Joe more or less saved Ring of Honor.
Mm-hmm.
So can't wait to hear that story and much, much more next week right here on Last Stop Penn Station. For AJ, our producer, Carrie Silk, and I'm Ian Riccaboni. Thanks for listening, everybody. Happy wrestling.
For listening to Last Stop Penn Station podcast. Rate, review, like, subscribe, and share on your favorite platform. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or at laststoppennstation.com.